I have friends that do the gynecological exams.
Uh-huh.
They have to train on somebody, right? So,
Right.
and they asked me, and they get paid very well to do it. And I was like, no way, because you've got nine students looking at your, and you have a mirror, and you're basically telling them move to the left, move to the right, and sometimes because they're students, they may not perform it correctly, and it could hurt
Oh yeah, yeah.
no matter what, no matter how much they would pay me for that, or I have to go through like a certification course for that. I was like, no way, that's not for me. They do the gynecological exam and the breast exams, and I just said no way.
All right, good for you.
Yeah. I always tell people, because a lot of people go, that is such a crazy job you have, like how did you get into that? Because I'm a performer. That's how I you know for many years I was a Barbara Streisand impersonator. That was my
Oh,
big thing. Yeah, so
wow.
I did that for like 10 years. And I lived in New York, and I went to acting school. And of course, when you're not working as an actor, you go, what do I do? And so the fake patient work really worked out really nicely, because it would be like we would go from one school to another school to another school, and I have learned everything. I mean, I could probably be like a physician assistant at this point, because I've done
Yeah.
so many different cases, not just physically, I'm sick, I don't feel good, I play all the mental patients.
Oh
I
wow.
play schizophrenia, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, anxiety disorder, depression, suicide. I do all of it. And I do it often, which it's hard,
Oh,
because
I bet.
after, let's say you play depression for 5, 6 hours, you get depressed. You
Yeah.
have to cry. It's so I started doing it back in the early when I was like in my early 20s.
Uh-huh.
And then I did it in New York forever. And then I moved to Florida, and I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I didn't have this job anymore. And I called us, they do them at simulation centers at the schools. And I called up a sim center, and they were like, we need a real patient. We've never had an actual person. We use mannequins. And so I started out with the psych department, because that was where a lot of the bedside manner and communication skills were needed. And so it was more about talking with the patient and understanding how the patient is feeling. It was all mental health.
Okay.
So but it became my full-time gig in a sense. And
Well,
now I do most of it
what's
on
the
Zoom.
best thing about your job?
The students absolutely love it. They think it is so um essential for them to be able to know how to speak to a patient and
Yeah.
also get feedback. I give them feedback afterwards. How did it make me feel? Did
Oh,
I
that's
feel that they
great.
they they comforted me, that they showed empathy, that they communicated well with whatever the diagnosis may be? They absolutely love it. They say it's just like going into clinicals for them when they have to actually go into rotations at the hospitals. They think it's a great way to begin before they actually have to be with a real patient.
That's great. And then what's the worst thing about your job?
I think it takes a toll on my mental health
Mm,
sometimes. If I'm
yeah.
playing
Oh,
a suicide patient for hours, it's exhausting after a while.
oh, yeah. That would be a drag to be
Yeah.
suicidal all
I
day
mean,
long.
yeah. So, I mean, I did a case last week for a fetal demise case, and they
Oh,
tell me that my baby has passed away, and I still have to deliver the baby. And I had to play this case for hours on Zoom. I'm doing this, by the way. That is also hard. I don't do it
oh,
in person anymore.
oh, wow.
But some of these students have gone through that. So when they're with me in the case, they start to cry. It's very hard, some of these
Yeah,
cases, to do with them, but they have to. They have to do
yeah.
it.
That's a beautiful work you do. And
Thank you.
and you told me about a situation while you were working where an
Yeah.
emergency came up. I'd love for you to share that.
Down. And I said, okay, I've got about 20 minutes before the next rotation, and I might as well take out my lunch and I'll start to eat it, because I had time. It was lunchtime. And I had chicken breasts, which is always dry, chicken, especially if you put it in the slow cooker. I think that's what I had done. But it was dried out chicken breasts, unfortunately. But I started to eat it, not thinking anything about it, really, just hungry. And I started to choke. But this wasn't like a little thing caught in my throat. This was my airway was like basically blocked by like a
For real.
cube of chicken breasts. It was
Mhm.
scary. I mean, I laugh at it now, but at the time it was not scary. It was not funny. It was very scary. So I stood up and I literally was going, ugh.
Uh-huh. The international symbol for
Yeah,
choking.
I, and you have a doctor in the room, mind you,
Uh-huh.
and you have a student who's going to become a doctor eventually. And literally, they looked at me, and the student says, "Is this part of the scenario? Is this part of the simulation?" And the patient that was on the bed ran off the bed to me and started
So
banging on my,
the
and I was
fake patient helped you out.
of all the people, not even the doctor, not even
Oh
the
my
student
goodness.
doctor. And it was like, and it like I coughed it up, like it flew out the piece of chicken onto the table.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, this was not a real case. This was not part of the scenario. This was real, and it
Wow.
was so wacky how it happened. And in that moment, I was like, boy, the doctor, even the instructor who knew the case, had nothing to do with choking on chicken, didn't even get
Uh-huh.
up to help me. But the student, the standardized patient did.
Thank God you lived, huh?